The assembly hall of the Galactic Concord was the largest structure ever built by any civilization. It floated in the empty space between three star systems, a monument to peace and cooperation among the stars. 12 great species had built it together, and for 9,000 years. They had gathered here to solve their problems with words instead of weapons. Ambassador Yoon Daeson stood at the speaking platform, feeling very small. He was 63 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 40 years learning how to talk to aliens, how to smile when they insulted him, how to bow when they demanded respect. He was good at his job. But today, his job felt impossible. The Veth Primarch sat on a throne made of black crystal, looking down at the human ambassador like a cat watching a mouse. The Veth were tall creatures, almost 3 meters high, with forearms and skin that looked like wet leather. They had ruled 100 star systems for longer than humans had existed as a species. And now, they wanted Earth's colony worlds. "You have heard our terms," the Primarch said. His voice was deep and wet, like stones grinding together underwater. "Your species will surrender the Kepler Corridor. All human colonies in that region will be placed under Veth protection. Your ships will leave within 1 standard month." Daesoon kept his face calm. The Kepler Corridor held 7 human worlds. 14 million people. Families, children, farmers, scientists. The Veth called it protection, but everyone knew what that meant. The Veth had protected other species before. Those species no longer existed. "May I ask why?" Daesoon said. His voice was steady. "We have honored every treaty. We have paid every fee. We have given no offense." The Primarch made a sound that might have been laughter. "You exist in space that we desire. That is reason enough. Do you think you are special, little human? Do you think the galaxy cares about your kind?" Daesoon looked around the assembly hall. 11 other species sat in their designated areas, watching the scene. The Phanari, small and clever, with their mechanical bodies. The Toth, ancient beings of light and crystal. The Makari warriors who respected only strength. None of them spoke. None of them moved to help. He had expected this. Humanity had always known this moment would come. "I request time to consult with my government," Daesong said. The Primarch leaned forward. "You may have 1 day. I asked for 3, and I gave you 1. Be grateful I did not say 1 hour." The Primarch waved a hand in dismissal. "Go. Run back to your little world. Tell your leaders to prepare for their surrender. And when you return, I expect you to kneel." Daesoon bowed slightly, just enough to satisfy protocol. Then he walked out of the assembly hall, feeling the eyes of 12 civilizations on his back. His ship was waiting in the diplomatic dock. It was a small vessel, built for comfort rather than speed. Painted in the blue and white colors of Earth's unified government. The crew was minimal. A pilot named Baek Junho, young and nervous. A communications officer named Shin Harry, who had been with Daesong for 20 years. And for security guards who stood at attention as the ambassador came aboard. "Sir," Harry asked. Her face was pale. She had watched the assembly session on the ship's screens. Daesoon walked past her without stopping. "Send a message to Earth. Priority Alpha. Use the old code." Harry's eyes widened. Priority Alpha, the old code. She had trained for this moment, but never believed it would come. Her hands trembled as she worked the communication console, 12 light years away. Admiral Kong Suben was eating dinner alone in her cabin, aboard the carrier Indomitable. She was 55 years old, short black hair and a scar across her left cheek that she had received in a training accident 30 years ago. She had spent her entire adult life preparing for a war she hoped would never happen. Her tablet buzzed. She looked at the message, read it twice, and then set down her chopsticks. The message was short. Just 3 words in a code that only 7 people in the galaxy knew. They have chosen. Subin stood up and walked to her bridge. Her officers snapped to attention as she entered. They saw something in her eyes that made them stand a little straighter. "Begin protocol, Jindo," she said. "Nobody asked questions." They had trained for this too. Across human space, the signal spread like fire through dry grass. Freighters that had been broken down in alien ports suddenly found their engines working again. Mining ships in asteroid belts powered up weapons that no one knew they had. And in the deep black spaces between stars, where no civilization ever thought to look, shipyard lights flickered on for the first time in decades. On New Sol, the largest human colony world, a retired general named Moon Kung Ho received a call that woke him from sleep. He listened for 30 seconds, then ended the call and got dressed. He walked to his basement, moved aside a bookshelf, and opened a hidden door. Inside was a room filled with military equipment that officially did not exist. His wife watched from the stairs. They had been married for 40 years. "Is it time?" she asked. "Yes." She nodded slowly. "I will make coffee. You will need it. It's on Earth itself, in the deep bunkers beneath the city of Busan." A young officer named Cho Min-soo received orders that made his hands shake. He had been guarding these bunkers for 3 years, watching over ships that were never supposed to fly. Now he was told to prepare them for launch. He walked through the massive underground hangars, looking at row after row of warships. They were painted black, designed to be invisible against the darkness of space. Their weapons were hidden inside their hulls. They looked like cargo vessels, harmless and slow. They were neither. The galaxy did not know it yet. But the moment the Veth Primarch issued his ultimatum, he had made the biggest mistake in the history of his species. For 200 years, humanity had watched. They had learned, they had smiled and bowed and pretended to be weak. And all that time, they had been building now. The building was done, and the waiting was over. Ambassador Yoon Dae-sung sat in his small ship, traveling back toward the assembly hall. He had one day to respond to the Veth demands. He already knew what he would say. He had known for 40 years, the silence before a storm is always the deepest. The assembly hall was full when Ambassador Yoon Dae-sung returned. Every species had sent their highest representatives. They had come to watch humanity surrender. They had come to see a small civilization learn its place in the galaxy. Dae-sung walked to the speaking platform with slow, measured steps. He had not slept. He had spent the night reading reports, watching video feeds, speaking with people across human space. Now he was here, and the eyes of 12 civilizations were upon him. The Veth Primarch looked pleased. He sat on his black throne with all 4 arms crossed, waiting for the human to kneel. Around him, other Veth officials wore expressions of smug satisfaction. This would be easy. This would be quick. And then they would take what they wanted, as they had always done. "You have returned," the Primarch said. "I am pleased to see that your species understands the situation." Dae-sung stood at the center of the platform. He took a moment to look around the hall, to see each species in turn. The Fenari, the Toth, the Makari, all of them watching. None of them willing to help. "I have consulted with my government," Dae-sung said. His voice was calm, steady. "We have considered your terms very carefully, and we decline." The word hung in the air like smoke after an explosion. The Primarch's translator seemed to stumble. He leaned forward, his wet eyes blinking in confusion. "You decline? We refuse your demands. Earth will not surrender the Kepler corridor. We will not abandon our people to your protection, and we will not kneel." The silence lasted 3 heartbeats. Then the Primarch began to laugh. It was an ugly sound, wet and grinding, and soon other Veth joined him. A few of the other species made sounds that might have been amusement too. The tiny humans thought they could refuse the mighty Veth. "You have 17 ships," the Primarch said, still laughing. "We have 8,000. Do you understand mathematics, Ambassador? Do you know what those numbers mean?" Dae-sung waited for the laughter to fade. His face showed nothing. His hands did not shake. "I have more to say," he said. The Primarch waved a hand. "Speak, then. We could use more entertainment." Dae-sung reached into his pocket and removed a small device. It was flat and silver, no bigger than his palm. He placed it on the podium and pressed a button. A hologram appeared above the assembly hall. It showed a space station, massive and dark, orbiting a red planet. The station bristled with weapons. Ships clustered around it like fish around a reef. The words Fist of Korath appeared beneath the image. "This is your largest military installation outside your home system," Daesung said. "It commands 17 sectors. It houses 200,000 of your warriors." Primarch stopped laughing. He stared at the hologram with something new in his eyes. Something that might have been uncertainty. "Why are you showing me this?" he demanded. Daesung looked at his watch. "In approximately 30 seconds, you will understand." The assembly hall fell silent. Every eye was fixed on the hologram. The Veth officials began muttering to each other in their own language. Confused and increasingly worried, at exactly the 30-second mark, the hologram changed. The Fist of Korath exploded. It was not a single explosion, but hundreds. Blooming across the station like flowers made of fire, the weapons platforms shattered. The docking bays tore apart. The ships around the station were caught in the destruction, tumbling and burning and dying, and through the fire came other ships. Human ships. Hundreds of them, pouring out of the darkness like a flood of black arrows. They moved with perfect coordination, their weapons firing in synchronized waves that cut through the remaining Veth defenses like wind through paper. The hologram showed the timestamp. This was not a recording. This was happening right now. The Primarch rose from his throne. His wet face had gone pale, almost gray. His 4 hands trembled. "Impossible," he whispered. "You have 17 ships." 17. Daesung smiled. It was not a kind smile. "We registered 17 ships with the Galactic Concord," he said. "We built many more. In places you never thought to look. In the darkness between stars, where your sensors cannot reach. For 200 years, we have been building. And now, we are done building." He stepped closer to the hologram controls and pressed another button. The image changed again. Now it showed a map of Veth space. Red dots appeared across the map, spreading like drops of blood and water. Each Crepper represented a human fleet emerging from hiding. 12 fleets. 1,700 ships, attacking on 12 fronts at the same time. "You destroyed our colony ship Morningstar 11 years ago," Daesung said. His voice was still calm, but now there was ice beneath the calm. 4,000 of our people. Families. Children. We asked for justice. The Concord said it was not their concern. The Veth said it was an accident. He looked directly at the Primarch. "It was not an accident. We know this. We have known for 11 years. And we have been waiting." The other species in the assembly hall were stirring now. The Fenari were speaking rapidly among themselves. The Makari were standing straighter, their warrior instincts recognizing a change in power. The Toth flickered with patterns of light that no translator could read. "What do you want?" the Primarch asked. His voice had lost its confidence. Daesung turned to face the entire assembly. "Here are our terms. The Veth Dominion will withdraw from the Kepler corridor immediately. You will release all human prisoners taken during your border inspections. You will pay reparations for the Morning Star, and you will sign a treaty guaranteeing that no Veth military vessel will enter human space again. And if we refuse?" Daesung looked at the Primarch for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but it carried to every corner of the hall. "Then we will continue, fleet by fleet, system by system, until there is nothing left to refuse with." The hologram behind him continued to show the battle. More Veth stations were falling. More human ships were emerging from the darkness. The numbers on the display kept climbing. The Primarch sat back down on his throne. He suddenly looked very old. "This is madness," he said. "The Concord will not allow this." Daesung looked around at the other species. None of them moved. None of them spoke. "The Concord," he said slowly, "did not help us when we asked. The Concord did not care when our people died. The Concord watched while you threatened to enslave our worlds." He turned back to the Primarch. "The Concord has made its choice. Now we are making ours." He picked up the hologram device and put it back in his pocket. The image disappeared, leaving only the empty air where destruction had been. "You have 1 hour to respond," Daesung said. "I suggest you use it wisely." Then he turned and walked out of the assembly hall, leaving 12 civilizations in stunned silence behind him. The Veth Primarch did not respond in 1 hour. He waited 3, hoping that his military commanders would tell him the human attack was a trick. They did not. Instead, they sent him reports of destruction on a scale his people had never experienced. So the war continued. Captain Park Ji-young stood on the bridge of the destroyer, Gwangato, watching the stars through the main viewport. She was 34 years old, with sharp eyes and a calm voice that never rose above a normal speaking level. Her crew of 200 had trained with her for 6 years. They knew each other the way family knows each other. They moved together like fingers on the same hand. The Gwangato was part of the Third Fleet, attacking the Veth industrial systems near their homeworld. These systems built the weapons and ships that made the Veth powerful. Without them, the Veth war machine would starve. Enemy formation ahead, her sensor officer reported. 42 Veth cruisers. They are moving to intercept. Ji-young looked at the tactical display. 42 against their 16. The numbers should have been impossible. But Ji-young had seen the simulations. She had run this battle 1,000 times in training. She knew exactly what to do. Signaled the pack, she said. Formation Delta 7. We go through them. The 16 human ships changed their positions, spreading out into a wide net. The Veth cruisers came forward in a straight line, their weapons charging. They expected the humans to run or to fight in the traditional way. Trading shots until one side broke, the humans did neither. At Ji-young's command, the Gwangato and 4 other destroyers accelerated directly at the center of the Veth line. The other 11 ships split wide, curving around the enemy flanks. The Veth commander saw the division and made a choice. He focused his firepower on the central group, the smaller target. That was his mistake. The 5 central ships took damage. 2 of them fell out of formation, trailing smoke and fire. But they had done their job. They had held the Veth attention for 30 precious seconds. In those 30 seconds, the flanking ships completed their curve. They came at the Veth line from both sides, their weapons firing in perfect synchronization. The Veth cruisers tried to turn, tried to respond, but they were too slow. They had been built for overwhelming force, not for quick movements. The battle lasted 11 minutes. When it was over, 37 Veth cruisers were destroyed or disabled. The humans lost 4 ships. Jung looked at the wreckage floating in space and felt nothing like joy. Those Veth ships had crews too, families waiting for them at home. But she thought of the morning star, of the 4,000 humans who had died in fire and vacuum. And she pushed the feeling down. War was not about joy. War was about survival, far behind the front lines. Dr. B. Kwunji worked in the medical bay of the hospital ship Mercy's Hand. She was 41 years old, with gentle hands and tired eyes. She had spent her career studying alien biology, learning how to heal creatures that breathed different gases and pumped different fluids through their veins. Now she used that knowledge to save lives, the Mercies. Hand followed the fleets at a safe distance, collecting the wounded from both sides. This confused the Veth at first. They could not understand why humans would waste resources on enemy soldiers. When Yanji was asked about it, she gave the same answer every time, because they are still people. Different from us, but still people. Young Veth soldier lay on her operating table, his body torn by shrapnel. He was barely old enough to fight. His translator device had been destroyed, so he could not speak. But his eyes followed Yunji as she worked to save his life. She talked to him as she worked, knowing he could not understand, but hoping her voice might bring some comfort. "You did not choose this war," she said, carefully removing a piece of metal from his side. "You were told to fight, so you fought. That is not evil. That is just being young and doing what you are told." The soldier's eyes began to close. Yunji finished her work and watched his vital signs stabilize. He would live. He would be sent to a prison camp, where he would be fed and sheltered until the war ended. And maybe someday would tell his children about the human doctor who saved him when she did not have to. That was the point. That was why the Mercy's Hand existed. Not because healing enemies would win the war, but because it would win the peace that came after. Back on the front lines, the war moved faster than anyone had expected. Human fleets struck targets across Veth's space, hitting military bases, supply lines, and communication centers. They did not attack civilian areas. They did not bomb cities or poison water supplies. Every target was military. Every death served a purpose. The Veth tried to fight back. They gathered their remaining fleets and launched a massive counterattack at the human colony of Sajong. 3,000 Veth ships against the 500 defending the system. The numbers were finally in their favor. But they had forgotten something important. Admiral Kong Su-ben was waiting for them. She had positioned her fleet behind Sejong's largest moon, invisible to sensors. When the Veth fleet entered the system, they saw only the defending ships, outnumbered and seemingly helpless. They charged forward, eager for a victory that would change the course of the war. Su-ben, let them come. She watched them pass the moon, watched them engage the defenders, watched them commit fully to the battle. Then she gave her order. All ships, attack. 500 more human vessels came around the moon in perfect formation. They hit the Veth fleet from behind while it was focused on the defenders. The Veth were caught between two forces, unable to retreat, unable to reorganize. The Battle of Sajong lasted for hours. When it ended, the Veth had lost 2,000 ships. Their last major fleet was gone. Their ability to fight was broken, on the bridge of the Indomitable. Su-ben received the surrender message from the Veth Primarch. She read it once, then passed it to her communications officer. "Send it to Earth," she said. "Tell them it is over." She knew it was not over. Not really. The fighting was done, but the harder work was just beginning. Humanity had proven it could win a war. Now, it had to prove it could win the peace. Outside the viewport, the wreckage of the Veth fleet drifted slowly through space. Rescue ships were already moving among the debris, searching for survivors. Human ships saving Veth lives, even now. Su-ben watched them work and allowed herself a small, tired smile. This was what made humans different. Not their weapons, not their tactics, but their ability to destroy an enemy completely and then offer them a hand up from the ashes. The war had lasted 11 days. The galaxy would remember it forever. The Galactic Concord station felt different now. Admiral Kang Su-ben noticed it the moment she stepped off her shuttle. The aliens who passed her in the corridors did not look at her with boredom or contempt anymore. They looked at her with something else. Fear, respect. Perhaps both mixed together. She walked with 2 Marine escorts, though she did not need them. No one in the galaxy would dare to touch her now. She wore her dress uniform, black with silver stars on the collar, her medals arranged in neat rows across her chest. Every medal represented a battle. Every battle represented lives lost and lives saved. The Council of 12 met in a chamber at the very center of the station. It was a round room with 12 seats arranged in a circle, each seat designed for a different species. The ceiling was transparent, showing the endless stars above. It was meant to remind the council members of how small they were compared to the universe. When Su-ben entered, 11 species were present. The Veth seat was empty. The Arbiter sat at the head of the circle. No one knew how old the Arbiter was. Some said 10,000 years, some said 100,000. The Arbiter's species had built the Concord in the first place, long before most other civilizations existed. Now the Arbiter was the last of its kind, a living memory of a galaxy that had long since changed. "Admiral Kang," the Arbiter said. Its voice was like wind through dry leaves. "You are the first human to enter this chamber." Su-ben did not wait for permission to sit. She walked to the center of the circle and lowered herself into a chair that had been placed there for her. It was too small, designed for a species with different proportions, but she sat in it anyway. "I am not here for history lessons," she said. "I am here for answers." The other council members shifted in their seats. The Fenari clicked their mechanical fingers nervously. The Makari watched with the hard eyes of warriors who recognized a fellow predator. The Toth pulsed with colors that no translator could read. "Ask your questions," the Arbiter said. Su-ben looked around the circle, meeting each set of eyes in turn. "The Veth threatened to enslave our colonies. Where were you?" Silence. The Veth destroyed our colony ship. 4,000 civilians, families, children burned alive in the vacuum of space. Where were you? More silence. For 200 years, the Veth tested us. They raided our borders. They kidnapped our people. They made it clear that one day they would come for everything we had. And you watched. All of you watched. Subin's voice was steady, but there was cold fire beneath the words. So I want to know why. The Fenari representative spoke first. It was a small creature, no bigger than a human child, but its mechanical body was ancient and powerful. The Concord does not interfere in disputes between member species. This has always been our way. Your way let millions die. Our way kept peace for 9,000 years. Subin leaned forward. Peace for who? Not for the species the Veth conquered. Not for the civilizations they destroyed before they met you. Your peace was only for those strong enough to defend themselves. Everyone else was meat. The Makari representative made a low sound, almost like laughter. It was a massive creature, covered in bone plates and scars. The human speaks truth. We have always known this. Strength matters. Weakness is death. Your Concord pretends otherwise, but the universe does not care about pretending. The Arbiter raised a thin hand. We did not gather here to debate philosophy. Admiral, what do you want? Subin stood. She was not tall, but in that moment, she seemed to fill the room. The Veth Dominion is finished, she said. Their military is destroyed. Their government has collapsed. Their worlds are in chaos, and their people are starving because no one knows how to lead them anymore. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. We could leave them like that. Let them tear themselves apart. Let them suffer the way they made others suffer. That would be justice by some measures. But you will not do this, the Arbiter said. It was not a question. No, we will not. Subin walked slowly around the circle, looking at each council member as she passed. Humanity will take responsibility for Veth space. We will send food, medicine, engineers. We will help them build a new government, one that does not start wars for sport. We will do this because leaving them to die would make us no better than them. The Fenari clicked its fingers. This is expensive. This is difficult. Why would you choose this burden? Subin stopped walking. She was in front of the empty Veth seat now. Because we spent 200 years preparing for war. We got very good at it. Too good. If we do not find another purpose for our strength, we will become exactly what we destroyed. She turned to face the full council. That is why we are here. Humanity is done hiding. We are done pretending to be small. But we will not become conquerors. We will not become the next Veth. The Arbiter's ancient eyes studied her carefully. Then what will you become? Subin thought of Dr. B. Kyungji. Saving Veth lives on the Mercy's hand. She thought of the rescue ships searching through wreckage for survivors. She thought of the long, hard work ahead, rebuilding what war had broken. Protectors, she said. We will become protectors. Not of the strong. The strong can take care of themselves. We will protect the weak. The species that cannot fight. The civilizations that are just beginning. The ones who look up at the stars and wonder if anyone will help them. The Makari made its laughing sound again. This is foolish. The weak will drag you down. They will take your resources and give nothing back. Maybe, Subin agreed. But we were weak once. We were small and alone and afraid, and no one helped us. We had to save ourselves. She looked at the Makari with steady eyes. I will not let another species face that alone. Not if I can prevent it. The council was silent for a long moment. Then the Arbiter spoke. You are asking us to change everything. 9,000 years of tradition. 9,000 years of policy. You want us to interfere? To protect? To risk our own safety for species that mean nothing to us? Yes. And if we refuse? Subin gestured at the empty Veth seat. Then humanity will do it alone. We will build our own alliance. We will protect who we can. And when the next threat comes, the next species that wants to conquer and enslave, They will find us waiting. She paused. With or without the Concorde, the Arbiter looked around the circle. The other council members were stirring, exchanging glances and silent signals. The Fenari and Toth seemed interested. The Makari looked skeptical but not hostile. Other species showed mixtures of fear, curiosity, and something that might have been hope. "We will discuss this," the Arbiter said finally. "It is too important for a quick decision. But I will say this, Admiral. In 9,000 years, no species has ever spoken to this council the way you have. No species has ever demanded that we become better than we are." The ancient being rose from its seat, moving with slow, painful effort. "Perhaps that is what we needed. Perhaps we have been comfortable for too long." Zubin nodded once. "I will wait for your decision. But do not take too long. The galaxy is changing. You can change with it, or you can be left behind." She turned and walked out of the chamber, leaving 11 civilizations to contemplate a future they had never imagined. 5 years passed like water flowing downhill. The galaxy changed slowly at first, then faster. Then, in ways that no one could have predicted. Cho Yuna was 12 years old, and had never known fear of the stars. She lived on New Inshan, a colony world that had once been under Veth control. Now it was free. Now it was home. Her school was a long, low building on the edge of the settlement, surrounded by farms that grew earth crops in alien soil. Every morning, she walked to school with her friends, laughing and talking. It's about normal things. Homework, games. Which boy in the next class was the most? It's annoying. Her teacher was a man named Han Teho. He was 47 years old, with a kind face and a prosthetic leg that he had received in the war. He never talked about the war unless students asked. They always asked. Today, Yuna's class was studying history. Real history. The kind that the Galactic Concorde had hidden from younger species for thousands of years. Teho stood at the front of the classroom, pointing at a holographic display that showed the old Veth territory. Red dots marked the places where battles had been fought. Blue dots marked the humanitarian stations that humans had built after the war. Before the war, Teho said, the Veth controlled 112 star systems. They had enslaved or destroyed 47 different species over their history. The Concorde knew this. They did nothing. A boy in the front row raised his hand. His name was Lim Jamin, and he was always asking questions. "Why did they do nothing, sir?" Teho smiled sadly. "Because they were afraid. Not of the Veth, but of change. The Concorde had kept peace for 9,000 years by ignoring anything that did not directly threaten them. If they started protecting weak species, they would have to make hard choices. They would have to take risks. It was easier to look away." Yuna frowned. "But that is not peace. That is just being quiet while bad things happen," as Teho agreed. "That is exactly right. And that is what humanity decided to change." He pressed a button, and the display shifted. Now it showed the current galaxy. The Veth territory was still there, but it was different. Green dots marked schools, hospitals, and farms that humans had helped build. Blue dots marked joint patrol routes where human and alien ships flew together. "After the war, we had a choice," Teho said. "We could have punished the Veth. We could have taken their worlds, scattered their people, made them suffer the way they made others suffer. Some people wanted this. They were angry, and their anger was justified. What happened instead?" Jamin asked. "We chose another path. We helped them rebuild. We taught them how to grow food and govern themselves without violence. It was hard. It took years. Many people said we were foolish. But slowly, things changed." He pointed at a dot on the map. "This is the planet Vareth 4. 5 years ago, it was a military base where the Veth trained soldiers for conquest. Today, it is a university where Veth and human students learn together. Last year, a Veth student won a prize for creating a new type of medicine that helps 3 different species." The classroom was quiet. Yuna looked at the map and tried to imagine what it had been like before, when humans were alone and afraid, when the galaxy was full of predators who saw weakness as an invitation to attack. "Sir," she said, raising her hand, Why did we wait so long to fight? If we were building ships for 200 years, why not use them earlier? Tejo looked at her for a long moment. He walked to the window and looked out at the farms, the houses, the peaceful sky. Because war is the worst thing our species knows how to do, he said quietly. We are very good at it, perhaps too good. And once you start a war, you cannot control where it goes. People die. Families are destroyed. Wounds are created that take generations to heal. He turned back to the class. We waited because we wanted to be absolutely certain. Not just that we could win, but that we had no other choice. We tried diplomacy. We tried patience. We tried everything we could think of. Only when all other paths were closed did we choose war. And if the Veth had not given us a reason, Yuna asked. Tahoe smiled. Then we would still be waiting. Building our hidden ships. Training our hidden soldiers. Ready for a war that might never come. That would have been better. A war you never have to fight is always better than a war you win. After class, Yuna walked home slowly, thinking about what she had learned. The sky above New Incheon was turning orange as the sun set. Ships moved across the horizon, coming and going from the spaceport. Some were human. Some were alien. All of them flew without fear. Her grandmother was waiting at home, cooking dinner in the small kitchen. Grandmother was 80 years old and remembered the time before the war. She had lived on a space station that the Veth had threatened to destroy. She had spent years wondering if her world would end. What did you learn today? Grandmother asked. Yuna sat at the kitchen table. About the war. About why we waited. About what we did after. Grandmother nodded slowly. That is important history. You should remember it, Grandmother. Were you scared? Before the war? The old woman was quiet for a moment. Her hands kept moving, chopping vegetables, stirring pots, but her eyes were far away. Every day, she said finally. Every single day, I would look at the stars and wonder if today was the day they would come. If today was the day, I would lose everything I loved. But you survived. We all survived. Because when the time came, we were ready. And because when the war was over, we chose to be better than our enemies. Grandmother smiled and put a bowl of food in front of Yuna. That is what matters. Not just winning. Any fool can win if they are strong enough. What matters is what you do with victory. Far across the galaxy, on the Galactic Concord station, Ambassador Yoon Dae-soon took his seat at the Council of 12. He was 70 now, slower than before, but his eyes were still sharp. He had served on the council for 5 years, representing humanity in the heart of galactic politics. Today, a new species was joining the Concord. They were called the Vin, small creatures from a world on the edge of known space. They had just discovered faster-than-light travel. They were afraid and hopeful and confused, exactly as humanity had been 3 centuries ago. The Arbiter welcomed them with ancient words of greeting. The other council members made formal speeches. Then the Ven ambassador, a small being with wide eyes, asked a question. We have heard stories of the war, it said. We have heard that your Concord does not protect weak species. We have heard that strength is the only law. Is this true? The chamber was silent. Daesong rose from his seat. It was true once, he said. For 9,000 years, the Concord watched while the strong devoured the weak. We told ourselves it was not our concern. We told ourselves it was the natural order of things. He walked toward the Ven ambassador, moving slowly because of his age. Then humanity came. We were weak too once. We were small and alone. And we decided that we would not let others suffer the way we suffered. He stopped in front of the Ven and looked down at the small creature. Today, the Concord is different. We have a protection treaty. Any species that joins us is defended by all of us. The strong no longer prey on the weak. Not anymore. The Ven's eyes were very wide. And you will protect us? Even though we have nothing to offer? Daesong smiled. We will protect you, because protection should not have a price. We will help you grow, and someday you will help someone else. That is how the galaxy changes. One species at a time. The Ven ambassador looked at the council. At the ancient Arbiter, at the mechanical Finari, and the armored Makari, and all the strange beings that made up the galactic community? Then it looked back at Daesung. We accept, it said. We join you. Outside the station, the first joint patrol of the new era departed for the frontier. Human ships and alien ships flying together, watching over a galaxy that was slowly learning to be better than it had been. Captain Park Ji-young commanded the lead vessel. She was 40 years old now, her hair streaked with gray, her eyes carrying the weight of experience. She looked at the stars ahead and thought of all the years she had spent preparing for war, all the battles she had fought, all the lives she had taken and saved. The war was a memory now. The building was done. But the work continued. Jump coordinates locked in, her navigator reported. Ready on your command, Captain? Gi-young allowed herself a small smile. Take us out. The ship leaped forward into the stars, carrying with it the hope of a better galaxy. Behind them, 1,000 worlds continued the slow work of healing. And in a classroom on New Chen, a 12-year-old girl looked up at the sky and knew, without fear, that the universe was full of wonder. The war was over. The future had just begun.